back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Delayed this video for as long as I could today with the hope that something actually is going to definitely happen in terms of players being bought or loaned in to Celtic for the rest of the season and beyond. But as things stand, there still hasn't been any positive information of Sidney van Hooijdonk coming to us on a loan to buy deal from Bologna. There's still obviously time for that to happen, and it may well be there's tons of things going on in the background, negotiating terms and organising medicals, etc., etc. But as things stand, at just gone 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, nothing definite happened in terms of Sidney van Hooijdonk. Nothing in terms of any other strikers coming in. Quite a lot of clamour from ex-Celtic players and other football pundits in Scotland that Celtic should be looking to get in Bojan Miovski from Aberdeen, or looking to get in Lawrence Shankland from Hearts. Hearts have offered Shankland an even better new contract. It would appear that Shankland has decided either to stay at Hearts or go to Rangers. Going to Rangers appears to be his preference, and so I don't think he has an intention to come to Celtic at this time, although you never know, he might change his mind if the Rangers option falls through. We'll see what happens with that one. With regards to a few other players who have been linked to Celtic, it appears now that Scott McKenna will be going from Notts Forest to FC Copenhagen. FC Copenhagen will be shortly involved in the Champions League last 16 knockout. Other players who in the past have been linked to Celtic, Owen Beck was on loan at Dundee, recalled by Liverpool to cover for Tsimikas and Robertson, who were both out injured. Robertson is back in the squad, and so Beck has now been released back to go to Dundee on loan for the rest of the season. It does feel a wee bit like Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool deliberately played Beck for 10 minutes as a sub at the end of the game just to spike any possibility of there being a deal with Celtic at this time. It does kind of confound a lot of theories from Liverpool fans and fan sites, etc., that Beck was being groomed to be the new Andy Robertson. It would appear that he's down the pecking order below several other fullbacks at Liverpool. However, I still think Beck would be a very good player for Celtic to look to purchase in the summer, or potentially some form of loan to buy deal for a year, again from Liverpool to Celtic in the summer. Another player linked to Celtic in terms of left back is Matt Targett at Newcastle. I can't quite think where this story's come from. Matt Targett has actually played for Newcastle this season a fair number of times. He was in their first team squad very regularly. He then got an injury, which was to the hamstring, which was going to keep him out for 3 to 4 months. He's not expected to be back into training until the end of February, and so he would not have been a very practical or sensible choice at the left back. And I have no idea where that story has come from, but I have seen it multiple times in the internet sites and newspaper articles over the last 48 hours. Happier news, our ex-player Jota, who had a rather unfortunate few months in Saudi League, is about to be loaned from there to West Ham for the rest of the season, and I would suspect that there's going to be some form of purchase deal at the end of that for Jota, and it's nice to see him getting his career back on track, as he did have a couple of great years for Celtic, and he is a player that we have rather missed this season. Nat Phillips, who was on loan to us up until the end of 2023 from Liverpool, he's now off to Cardiff. Again, until the end of the season. As you're all aware, Phillips had an absolutely abysmal loan spell at Celtic, came to Celtic not match fit, got himself injured in training in the international break, took a couple of weeks to make his Celtic debut. Whenever he was playing in a back four, he was atrocious. I said in previous videos, I think his performance against Kilmarnock was literally one of the worst ever performances I'd seen by a Celtic defender in 51 years. And so I was very relieved when Rodgers chose not to extend the loan for a further 5 months. However, Phillips is off to Cardiff. Looking at news today, it's probably time to say Hwyl to David Turnbull, Hwyl being goodbye in Welsh. David Turnbull seems at this point likely to be going to Cardiff, either on a loan deal with some form of fee for that loan period, or a cut price transfer fee at this time, or he may well only sign a pre-contract agreement with Cardiff. Cardiff seem to be at the top of the list of a few English Championship clubs looking to sign Turnbull. There doesn't appear to be any interest from any big clubs elsewhere in England or in Europe, and Cardiff seem to be number one on the list, and so it may well be for the rest of this season Turnbull and Nat Phillips are playing together in Wales for Cardiff. Also, it looks like it may be time for Arrivederci Gustav Lagerbielke. It would appear that Celtic and Lecce in Serie A have finalised a split of Lagerbielke's weekly wages from now to the end of the season, and also a loan to buy purchase price at the end of that loan spell in May, June of this year. I, for one, am rather disappointed that Lagerbielke is leaving Celtic. We signed him in August for around 3.4 million. This was a transfer that Brendan Rodgers had green lighted, according to all sources, given the fact that Rodgers just recently was taking credit for the Mike Novrocky transfer, which happened before that. Surely to goodness, in that case, it must mean that Brendan Rodgers was fully involved in Gustav Lagerbielke's deal. What Lagerbielke's done to put Brendan Rodgers' nose out of joint, I don't know. I personally thought that after being thrown at the deep end a couple of days after joining the club, he then had an okay game against Kilmarnock. He made a few errors in the first half against Rangers, but second half he and Scales formed a good partnership when we were defending much more. They had 4 clean sheets together. It's a partnership between Lagerbielke and Scales. He had obviously a disappointing first game in the Champions League, being sent off, I thought, rather harshly. However, at the end of the Champions League campaign, he literally scored the goal that gave us our first win in absolutely blooming ages in the Champions League, and the reward from Rodgers for that has been a couple of very brief sub-appearances and being told that he's absolutely useless, has no future at Celtic. And as soon as we became aware that Celtic weren't wanting to keep Lagerbielke, 3 top Italian teams came in for him, which does kind of say that Lagerbielke is a player of good quality. In the current Swedish full international squad, voted Defender of the Year in the 2023 Swedish season. And so clearly a lot of people other than me think Lagerbielke is a really good player. I think this is a decision, if Lagerbielke does actually go off on a loan to buy deal to Lecce, I think it's going to be a decision that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers massively regrets in the long term. New contract talks between Rocco Vata and Celtic are continuing. It appears that Celtic have offered Rocco Vata a 4-year deal. That significantly increased wages compared to the contract he is on up until the end of this season. The initial indications are that there is some of a gap between what Celtic are offering and what Rocco Vata's agents are asking for, but it does look like that is a deal that's likely to go through over the next wee while, and it does appear that Rocco Vata's intentions are to stay at Celtic rather than looking to move to Italy or elsewhere. Final 2 updates to give this afternoon. It looked like Celtic were at last going to be getting rid of James McCarthy. There was an offer from a Greek Super League club, Volos FC, to take McCarthy for the rest of the season. It would appear, however, FC Volos were unwilling to meet very much of James McCarthy's reported £14,000 per week, and so that deal has fallen through. However, it may well be if Volos and Celtic continue in negotiations, we might well get rid of James McCarthy, who hasn't played for Celtic's first team since October 2022 and has had a couple of B team appearances just recently. The other bit of news to update, Mikey Johnston appears to be on the radar for a loan for both West Bromwich and Norwich, and there are said to be a couple of other English Championship teams looking to loan Johnston at this time, although those clubs haven't given their names. It does look like West Brom are the much more likely club for Mikey Johnston to go to, but that's yet to be confirmed and appears to be down to Brendan Rodgers giving the green light to the deal. As I said at the start of the video, I've delayed doing this video as late as I can on Tuesday. We're now around 3:30. Just in case anything actually did transpire over the course of the day, there is still some time left until 23:30 on Thursday evening. But obviously things are being cut finer and finer every hour. So for all those new to the channel who've enjoyed the video, enjoyed the content, had a wee look at the other videos on the channel, do consider clicking that subscribe button, pushing us on towards 500, which would be absolutely amazing for me at this time. As always, feel free to use the like button and the comment section for any reaction to this video or other topics related to Celtic. And so for today, chat again tomorrow with hopefully more definite news of the ins and outs. And so if you're like David Turnbull and having to learn Welsh, Hwyl. If you're like Gustav Lagerbielke and likely to need to know Italian, Arrivederci. And for everybody else, goodbye and hail, hail.